Hey everybody, Rachel here from Rachthestamper.com, and I want to share this pretty simple card. This uses, we're using the little dots from the Color and Contour. This actually is a bundle. If you haven't seen it, it's got some really nice dies for layering. Card fronts has dies to coordinate, but we're going to just be using this portion today. I'm just going to pull that out. I need to clean that off just a little bit before we mount it. And then we're going to be using the Tropical Leaf stamp set. This also has a coordinating punch, really pretty. I actually used a piece of, I don't think this was designer series paper. It was a specialty paper that is retired. So I'm sorry that I didn't realize it was retired prior to using it. However, I'm sure you can find something else lovely that will layer on here really nicely. I also saw someone create this with the Desert Details DSP, so if you have that, that would probably work out really nicely as well. This is a pretty simple color combination. We have smoky slate for the background, and then there is a piece of Calypso Coral. This paper, I'll tell you what it's called, just in case you have it. It is the Dry Brushed Metallic Specialty Paper. It was Cajun, Petal Pink, and Soft Succulent. Kind of like all interspersed in there, but you can see. We also use a little piece here for this tag, and I do not know what these are called. These are current Build-A-Tag, maybe? I'm not really sure, but anyway, we're going to use the second largest tag. You could do it with this one instead as well. I've done this one, so maybe we'll switch it up and do this one instead. But this is great because it also has the little reinforcers that you could use for the tag. So just something else in case you like making tags. I'm not necessarily a tag person, but I thought these were really cute on this card. Another thing you could do is you could even make this so this part came off, and then you could use it as a bookmark if you wanted to do something like that, but that would be another card. We have a little strip back here, so pretty simple, just a little bit of stamping. And what I'm going to do really quickly is I'm just going to clean both sides of this off. So this is a photopolymer stamp, and if you ever notice that sometimes it's not sticking quite as well, if you clean both sides of it, you will see that you get much better adhesion to your block. So if you ever have trouble with that, clean both sides of your stamp, specifically with the photopolymer. The other ones don't really matter quite so much. So we did just use 2 colors on this, well actually 3, because this background here was stamped with soft seafoam, but all of the greens are just using garden green. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So to begin, we'll do all that first. We're going to use the 2, oops. We're going to use the 2 larger backgrounds. We are going to use the veins as well, but we start with the backgrounds. So we have our base, our layers, and this, I believe, is 1 and 3. I was going to say almost 1, about 1 3/4-ish, just approximately. By 5.5. I did have it run the whole length. So this is going to be our layer piece. I took a note from Angie Judah. She always, I believe, puts a little wedge here if this is the part you're going to come from and cut from. Actually worked out really well in Stamp Club this time. So I'm just going to mount these. And this, so what we're going to do is we're going to stamp our inside panel. We're going to stamp this layer. We're going to stamp the smaller one down, and then these 3 we're going to stamp from here, and we need to get our sentiment on here as well. Okay, so to do this, just need some scrap, and what we're going to do is just stamp, because you do want to stamp off. That's how we got the multi-layers. So we're going to stamp. Oops, that's a smudge. Let's flip that over. Well, whatever. You know what? It is what it is. It'll be covered up probably by something anyway. And you can either rotate your paper. Oh, forgot to stamp that one off. Whoopsie. Rotate your stamp. It really is up to you. Okay, so that is for our 1 layer. And then what you want to do when you're doing your stamp of the bigger one is you want to line them up so you could punch them. So 1, 2, 3. And we'll put our sentiment and move that. Forgot to get that out. Okay. All right, so there's that part of it. Now we're going to grab our veins. And here's the other thing. If you want, and let me show you this before we get ahead of ourselves. I'm going to just close this for a second. If you think you might want to do this stamped off version, I'm going to show you. Or you can decide on your own. I'm going to use the smaller one. Now, you can't really stamp off when you use soft sea foam. This is another one that's so light you can't see. Because it's so light, you won't be able to see it. So we're going to ink that. Let me just stamp it off. And here. Doesn't have to be, it's just really preference. So I'm going to clean these off because we're just going to reuse these blocks. All right, and now we're going to swap to the veins. Okay, so going back to Garden Green, and I'm not going to do it for this one. I'm going to show you. We're going to do the larger first. Just best you can, line it up. And over here. That one might be a little bit hard, but still okay. Okay, and I'm going to clean this off really quickly because we still have to do one other thing. Now, I'm going to show you how I did it. You could always omit this if you wanted to. Going back over here, I just added the veins on here. And I did hand trim this, so you really won't see quite so much. So it's up to you for that part. All right, so, oh, one other thing I forgot. Okay, this was the part that I thought was pretty cool. So I was watching, gosh, I can't remember who it was the other day. I think it probably was Jackie Bullheis, and she was talking about stamping dots. I thought this was pretty interesting. So when you're stamping these dots, sometimes you can end up with 2 different intensities is probably the best way to use this, depending on how you stamp. So you ink this. So if you stamp it and you ink it, you'll get these big splatters. But if you stamp it and you ink it really gently, you'll get really tiny, delicate, so you can see even that one, splatters. And that's what we're going for. We don't want heavy. We want really light. So what she did was she inked it, but she barely touched. Didn't re-ink really in between. Almost like you're just having a cup of tea with the queen. And you're barely hitting. All right, that's going to be it. And see, that smudge where I had my finger earlier, I can barely see. So, all right, that is all we're going to do. For real. So this is going to be our layer. So we do have to punch these. So the reason I said to line them up this way is because it's easier to slide your punch in. So 1. 2, 3. And then for this last one, I just kind of fussy cut this. I went with the words and trimmed. So just to start, we'll kind of square it off. All right, and then I kind of just went with the words. If you move the paper, it makes it a little bit easier to trim. And if this isn't something you like, you could skip that. But one other thing I want to say is you could also just stamp it on just a little rectangle piece. So kind of whatever you want it to be. Right, now one other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my leaves and just gently, I'm going to use my bone folder and I'm going to kind of bend the edges. So we'll get a little bit of 3D, and I'm only doing this on the ends because I want this part to be flat. So when we stick it down, this part will lift up, but this stays. So just curling the ends. You could go a step farther if you wanted to, and sponge or use your blender brush to hit the edges or the underneath portions, which would be kind of cool. So just another little tip there. All right, so now all we have to do really is assemble, and this part is super simple. We have one more little piece of die cutting to do here. Just going to do that really quickly. And I think, yeah, I'm just going to do this one just for something different. I'm going to run this through. Once we're finished, we'll see which one we prefer. Okay. All right, so we're layering these two together. Just using liquid glue. This is 3 by 4. Let's make sure I'm not fibbing. See? 3 1/4 by 4 1/4. This 3 by 4, 3 by 4, 3 1/4, 4 1/4. We're going to layer this piece onto the front. Okay, again, this is going to completely fit top to bottom, but sometimes I've left this just a little long, so I make sure that it makes it, just because you never know. Sometimes when you're cutting, just be just a little bit off. And we're just putting this with a very thin border on the side over here, probably like 1/4 inch. Make sure it's square. Okay, this layer we're going to put on with dimensionals. And the only thing you want to do is you want to mind to put where you're putting this. This to me is a little bit too far over, so I'll show you what I mean. Looks good. This, we're going to kind of put one down, and then one up. But you want to make sure that you have this on enough. You could even do it the other way if you wanted to. I think I'm going to try switching it for this one just to see. And then I want to show you one other thing with my loop. So I'm just going to grab a piece of baker's twine. And I'm going to show you what I did. So you're going to take this and you're actually going to unravel it. Because when you have baker's twine, it typically is 3 pieces. So we're going to take them out. We want just these 2, but we're going to separate them first. So we have these 2. We're going to put them through. And the other week in Stamp Club, I just called this a lazy knot. So you're going to just loop it through. I don't know if that's actually what it's called, but just loop it through. Maybe it's a slip knot. I have no idea. I say the lazy knot. You're just pulling. Oops, I didn't pull all of it through. Oh well, it's a super lazy knot. There we go. Dang it, let's go this way. Well, this just is what it is. Now we're going to call this the sloppy knot. I'm going to just trim that off. It's okay. Only thing I really want to do is just make sure these little pieces are even. I feel like I really botched this up. Got too cocky with my laziness. All right, so there you go. Just depends on what you want it to do. So this, since I'm going the other way, I think I'm going to change this. I'm going to have one below, one above, and then the pop is going to be this one. So it's kind of opposite of here because I have my knot on the other side. This is going to be in the center. I think that seems pretty good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put glue down on this. Again, this is the primary contact here. Remember, when you're gluing anything to foil paper, it does take a little bit of a minute for it to adhere. Okay, this is going to get dimensionals. No, this is not. This is going to get dimensionals. Well, no, not necessarily. I guess it doesn't really need it. Nah, it doesn't need it. We're going to just glue this. Just want to make sure. You're going to have to hold this for a minute just to make sure it sticks. This is going to get dimensionals for sure. I'm just going to put this on here while I'm waiting. Here. Yep, put some glue here. And here. There you go. Now, if this bothers you, you can certainly anchor it with a glue dot or something, but for me, I think it's okay. Now, one other thing you can do, and I'm sure everybody has some of these, so this is kind of what I did for this one, is just go through and find some sort of little embellishments. The opal rounds are great. The polished dots are great. I actually use polished dots on this one. So that's what you're going to do. We did do one with the pink at Club, and it didn't look quite as nice. I'm going to try the opal rounds just for something different. And what you're going to do is you're going to just grab... I got a new jewel picker. This is so sticky to me. I love this one, so that's why I went with this one. Oh, look, now it's going to make me look like a fibber. Oh, I probably should have used the bigger side. There we go. I'm going to just put a couple of these in random places, kind of to mimic like a dewdrop, if you will. So what do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll do a couple more. Why not? I'm like at the end of all of these embellishments. I'm really trying to use stuff. I did not order any ribbon at all with the new order, and I ordered only one, actually 2 embellishments. That was it. So I'm trying to get through before I add anything different. All right, let me move all these dimensionals, or backings, I should say, and then you can let me know in the comments what you prefer. So the one here with the little dots, again, those were the polished dots. These are also probably retired. But we have lots of new stuff, but you probably have something that you can already use, which I would highly suggest going through your stash, using up what you have, and then you can get something new. That's my current plan. I'm not buying anything new until I get rid of so many of these things I have. We've even been using stuff at class that's retired, and basically when some people are like, oh, I like that, can I order it? I'm like, no, but you can have the rest of this pack. So just to make me feel better that I'm trying to get rid of stuff, and also since I am using it and I don't have it anymore, I've just been giving things to people to get them out of my craft room. So if you like this card, please give me a thumbs up, leave me a comment. If you haven't already, I would love for you to like and subscribe to my channel. If you're new here, please feel free to share this with a friend. I don't normally cough this much, but I'm still recovering apparently from, I guess it was laryngitis last week. So I thank you so much for joining me today for this card. Again, pretty simple, using some old and new stuff as well. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day.